Strobe Studios presents Michael Helgens and Greg Kilberger in The Watson Files. Coming to you from the illustrious Strobe Studios in the heart of America, this is Craig Dahlen. And now, let's join the doctor and see what story he has for us today. That's odd. Door's locked, too. I wonder where Dr. Watson has gone off to. He usually leaves a note if he's not going to be here.
Good evening, Mr. Dahlen. Are you here to see the doctor?
Of course. He usually tells me about one of your adventures on Sundays.
I see. And he isn't home?
He doesn't seem to be.
Well, I must find him then. We have a case, so I'm afraid that you'll have to meet with him another time, unless you'd like to come along.
Oh, no. I've had my fill of taking part in your little adventures.
As you wish. This one does promise to be fairly interesting, though.
Well, I'm intrigued. But I think I'll wait to hear it from Dr. Watson.
Very well, I'll let him know to give you a call. He's probably just late getting back from the golf course.
He's at the golf course?
He wore his cleats out of the house. See the imprints on the carpet there?
I hadn't noticed them. Well, that's why you're the detective, I suppose.
Indeed. If I'm not mistaken, he should be here any minute, though.
How do you know that? Do you smell a cigar or something?
No, just now he passed by the window there on his way to the entrance.
Oh, well, that clears that up.
Mr. Dahlen, sorry I'm late. Holmes, what are you doing here?
As I've already explained to Mr. Dahlen, we have a case. You should probably change. I don't think your golf ensemble will be quite appropriate.
Of course. Sorry about this, Craig. Stop by tomorrow and I'll tell you all about this evening's adventure.
Sounds good. See you tomorrow night, then.
Good to see you again, Mr. Dahlen.
And you as well, Mr. Holmes.
Come in, Holmes. I'll just be a minute. You can fill me in while I'm getting ready.
Sure.
So, what's the case?
I got a call from Jeffrey Genslinger. It seems that a close friend of his has met with an unfortunate end.
Have the police found anything?
No, not exactly.
Nothing at all?
Well, it only happened a short time ago. I've helped out Mr. Genslinger with some difficulties in the past, so he asked me to see what I can do.
But the police have been called, right?
I'm not sure that is correct.
Holmes, the police have to be notified if there has been a murder.
You are, of course, correct, Watson. But we do not know yet if the unfortunate fellow was murdered.
But what? I'm not going to be able to convince you to call Officer Weathers before we go, am I?
I gave Mr. Genslinger my word that I would not call the police before I had a chance to take a look at the scene.
Fine. But the first time somebody says murder, I'm calling Max. Mr. Genslinger, isn't he the wealthy investor?
That's the guy. He's a good friend of mine, and he's helped me with more than a few of my own inventions.
So he's the one responsible for your inventing interest.
Sort of a role model, you might say.
Remind me to thank him when we see him.
Sure thing. Ready to go?
Indeed.
Oh, hey, Mr. Holmes. Come on in. It's pretty hot out there.
Good evening, Matthew. We're actually looking for your father.
Yeah, he told me to have you go around to the garage. What's he doing in there anyway? He made me stay out.
We're working on a little project together. Terribly dull stuff, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. See you later, then.
Indeed.
Spencer, I'm so glad you're here. I don't know what to do.
I'm sure you'll not mind that I've brought Dr. Watson along.
If you think it's best, come in, both of you.
Jeffrey Genslinger, meet Dr. Jack Watson.
Pleased to meet you. Holmes, that man is quite dead.
Jeffrey looks all right to me.
No, I mean the one in the car.
Yes, I suppose he is. What happened, Jeffrey?
I think it was a car accident, but I can't be sure.
The car does look pretty banged up. That would make the likely cause of death either blunt force trauma to the head, as evidenced by that gash there, or he may have broken his neck. He probably hit the steering wheel. But why didn't you just call the police if it was an accident?
I'm worried that it might be more than an accident. This man is a close friend. I recently altered my will to make him the executor of my estate. He'll inherit everything and look after Matthew until he's ready to be responsible.
If memory serves, Matthew is nearly 20, is he not?
Yes, but I prefer that he learn some responsibility and independence on his own before he becomes a billionaire.
That seems reasonable.
Well, let's have a look at your friend. What was his name?
Terrence Jackson.
There's an awful lot of blood.
He was in a car accident, Watson.
Yes, but look at the bruising around his neck. It must have been snapped during the crash.
Yes.
That sort of injury would have killed him instantly.
Ah, so his heart would not have been pumping for long after he got the gash on his head, if it also happened during the crash.
Exactly.
Let's have a look inside, shall we?
Holmes, if this wasn't an accident, or if he was perhaps hit in the head and then placed in the car, then the police really should be called.
Let's not be hasty, Watson. Perhaps the wound to his head happened before his car struck the tree. Accidentally.
And how do you know it was a tree?
I suppose it could have been a newer telephone pole, but there's a lot of sap on the front of the car here. Can we look inside now, Watson?
Fine, but if we have to call Max, he isn't going to like it very much.
Here we go, then. Watson, what do you see here?
You mean besides the corpse?
Yes.
Well, it looks like...
Oh, good. I believe we've seen enough. I'm sure that this was an accident. You can go and tell Mr. Dahlen all about it. Jeff and I will take care of things here.
What do you mean? Holmes, you're going to have to explain.
Spencer, I'm afraid I don't understand either.
I'll just call Max and have him take care of all of this. It was obviously an accident.
All right. Well, I'll feel better when Max knows about this. But how can you be sure it was an accident?
There was no evidence to support any other theory, Watson, so it must be true.
Holmes, that doesn't make any sense at all. You barely looked in the car.
Yes, but being me, I saw more than enough. Excuse me, I'm going to go call Max. Hello, Max. It's Spencer. Could you please come to Geoffrey Genslinger's manor? There's been an accident. Good. See you soon.
Well, at least you finally come around.
Indeed. I'll take care of things. Here, then. You look tired. It must have been pretty warm on the golf course today.
I suppose you're right. I could use some sleep.
Jeff, can your driver give Jack a ride home?
Sure, but should you really have called the police?
I probably should have done that from the beginning. I trust Max, though. You have nothing to worry about.
If you say so. Do you want to come inside the house while I see that Dr. Watson gets a lift home?
That would be perfect. I'll see you later, Jack.
All right, sure. Good night, Spencer.
Can I get you anything else, sir?
No, thank you. This tea is delightful.
Very well. I'll just be down the hall if you think of something else.
That will be fine.
Oh, hello again, Mr. Holmes. Did you and Dad finish in the garage?
Very nearly. Looking for a snack?
Yeah, I've been shooting hoops all day and I'm pretty hungry.
I was actually about to come looking for you.
Me? Why?
I know the obvious motive, and that is likely the one that the prosecutor will employ, but I was hoping that there was some other reason that you killed Mr. Jackson.
What do you mean?
I actually have you to thank for the solution appearing to me so quickly. There was quite a lot of water on the driver's side floor of Mr. Jackson's car, and you mentioned how hot it had been.
Yeah, but I don't see how
With
that...
the help of Dr. Watson, I was able to discern that Mr. Jackson had been struck in the head before his accident, and he was simply unconscious when the crash happened. Since he couldn't push the gas pedal himself, you needed something to hold it down. The water tells me that you chose a large block of ice, assuming that the evidence would simply melt away. There are still a few drops of blood on your collar as well.
You don't understand. He was an evil man. He was already siphoning some of my father's money to fund research using live people. Then the people were being killed afterward. They were also planning to kill Dad to speed things along. I couldn't let that happen.
Are you sure you didn't kill him to position yourself as next in line to get your father's money for yourself?
No, I have proof. I saw the documents by mistake when I went to Mr. Jackson's house for my dad to have him sign some papers.
Show me.
Sure. Here.
Yes, that is very convincing, but there might have been another way to stop Mr. Jackson without killing him. However, I think that justice has been done and the correct parties have been punished.
Wait, you're not going to turn me in?
You have a bright future ahead of you, Matthew. I think that you are more ready than your father gives you credit for. I am willing to clear this up and not speak of it again.
Thank you.
Don't thank me just yet. I'll have to tell your father what happened, and I'll make sure that the police know that it was an accident if he asks me to, but if he prefers that the police know the truth, I'll honor his request, and you'll have to face the consequences.
I understand.
Good. Now, let's go tidy up the kitchen. I'll actually call Officer Weathers, and we'll wait for your father.
So after closing the door on the car, Holmes was completely convinced that it was an accident and sent me off home so I could take a well-needed rest.
So that's the whole story, Doctor?
Yes, Holmes was quite certain it was an accident.
Well, I'm afraid that wasn't as interesting as your usual stories.
Yes, well, I suppose that accidental death rarely is. If it hadn't just happened last night, I wouldn't probably have even told it to you. I'm still not sure if I have all the details, but the newspaper reported the death as an accident this morning.
Did you ask Holmes about it again?
I did, but he remains tight-lipped on the matter. A sure sign that he is keeping something back.
He usually likes to divulge his methods when he knows that he's cleverly found a solution that everyone else missed.
Indeed. I'm afraid that we might never really know how this one turned out.
Well, hopefully you'll have something more interesting for us next week.
Yes, well, next week I plan on telling you, finally, the story about Holmes at the zoo.
Well, that sounds much better.
Indeed.
Tonight's Watson Files adventure was written by Michael Helgens and directed by Scott Strosahl. Spencer Holmes and Dr. Watson were played by Michael Helgens and Greg Kilberger. Additional voices were provided by Steve Rimpici. Until next week, this is Craig Dahlen saying good night from Strobe Studios.
Mr. Dahlen, sorry I'm late. Holmes, what are you doing here?
I don't have page 4.
Holmes, why don't you have page 4?
Uh-oh.
It's on the other side of page 3.
I probably should have done that from the beginning. I trust Max, though. You have nothing to worry about.
Obviously, you don't trust Max because you still haven't called him. You're such a liar. Your proverbial pants are definitely on fire on this episode.
I'm burning. I'm ablaze.
Yes. So, what's the case?
I got a call from Jeffrey. Jeffrey? I think that you are more than ready for what you're... I think that you are more than ready than you're... With the help of Dr. Watson, I was able to discern that Mr. Jackson had been stuck. With the help of Dr. Watson, I was able to discern that Mr. Jackson had been struck in the head before his accident. It's before his accident. It was actually the snapping of his neck that killed... It was actually the snapping of his neck that killed him. Since we...
Yes, well, I suppose that accidental death... I did, but he remains tight-lipped. Try that again.
Not one sentence of this is going to come out easy, and you're going to have a heck of a fun time putting it back together.